This is Kimberly Quinn, host of the Mindcraft podcast, and I can't tell you how much fun I have had doing this podcast. I started when the world closed over the pandemic in an attempt to spread some positivity out there and give people some strategies to enhance their own well-being and reduce anxiety and all of that. Now, 2 years later, we're still going strong and now listened to by 52 countries across the world. And I've even helped some of my students get going with their own podcasts. It's super easy to do. And I'll tell you, if you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it is the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. I'll just explain for you. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It is a ball. Start today. Greetings, Minecrafters, and welcome to another Minecraft discussion today. My name is Kimberly Quinn, and I am super excited to be here with all of you today. And my inspiration is coming from Richard Carlson. I've been on a Richard Carlson jag lately. I tend to, listen to lots of people. I read voraciously, but today I really want to talk about what's really important, and asking ourselves that, actually doing a check-in, like kind of like you brush your teeth in the morning, because I know, we've in the US of A, and I love my country. We are a fast-paced, also media-saturated society. So, basically we're flying around like gerbils on crack, right? And it's very easy, I think, to get caught up in the momentum of our daily routines and just life. And so Richard Carlson starts out by saying, it's easy to get lost and overwhelmed in the chaos, responsibilities, and goals of life. Once overwhelmed, it's tempting to forget about and postpone that which is most near and dear to your heart. I've found that it's helpful to keep asking myself, what's really important? I know for me, this is in the morning. And as I think if any of you watch my Minecraft video podcast, I'm out in the woods with little Giovanni most of the time. 6 days a week, unless it's horizontally raining. And then our routine in the winter, it's not that different. It's just I'm on snowshoes instead of in hiking boots. But I do a lot of this thing. So I have my whole prayer thing that I do, my whole gratitude journal thing that's before that. That's first, actually. Of course, prayer is a form of gratitude too. And if you don't need to call it that, I have a prayer life. You can call it gratitude. I don't know, or just a morning routine. It's just so important. But in that, there's sort of this inherent what's really important thing, because after I have a definite routine with it, at the end, I do this thing like, how can I be of service on this day? And that's not meant to be religious. So, you can make that whatever you want to make that. It's just good people doing good things in the world. That might be as small as loaning somebody a pencil or holding a door open, or who knows. I don't really plan it. I just ask. And typically every day, something kind of just shows up that is a way that I can be helpful in some way. And then I also do an intention. And I think that kind of rolls into what's really important too. And we've talked about that. One I often use is I intend to bring success to everything I do today. I intend to bring success to everything I do today. Or I tend to be relaxed today, or I tend to have fun today, whatever. And to me, that kind of reflects what's really important in part, and not entirely, but kind of that intention is like definitely, then I verbalize it. I say it out loud in the woods. Very rarely do we see people up there. And even if we did, I wouldn't care. I'm kind of just holding my arms out and happy. And then we walk into the deep woods, up the hills, and check out the bear prints and everything like that. But when we set an intention in the morning, that's a pretty clear indicator of what's important to us in that day. And then to take it a step further, Richard Carlson does part of his morning routine, which I think this is really cool. And I'm going to, incorporate it into what I do, probably towards the end there with the intention part. And my whole routine doesn't take 10 minutes. I don't think. I mean, it's not kind of natural walking I'm doing, because even if I'm not walking because it's horizontal rain, I'd still do the whole rest of it, the gratitude journal and the intention and all that stuff. But to actually ask, what's important to me today? And the one day at a time thing, like it's 12-step programs talks about one day at a time, not what's important to me forever. That's huge. It feels like Mount Everest. Just what is important to me on this day. I've got this meeting, that meeting, this meeting. What about giving my spouse or partner a quick call? What about giving one of my young adult children a call? What about um, writing a nice note in my children's lunches, maybe with a tasty treat in there? Mom loves you today. I love you every day, but I'm letting you know a special way today. Put a sticker in there, a sticker and I don't know, nice treat, thinking about you today, sweetheart. And to do that maybe with your partner, or just to think about, because I know that, and I'm definitely guilty of it. I think we probably all are, because the people we tend to take the most for granted are the ones closest to us, right? Because we just have this, inherent belief that they're always going to be there. They're always going to forgive us. They're always going to just be understanding. And when we're hungry, angry, sick, tired, whatever, they're just always going to be there. And that's probably true. They're always going to be there. But that certainly is not a reason to take them for granted. Again, I've definitely fallen into the trap. I think anybody does who's in a family. You're in long-term relationships, and that's not, just the partner. It's kids if you have them. It's your long-term friendships. It's your grandparents. It's your own parents. It's, your best friends. It's all of that. And it's so easy to take the people closest to us for granted. And so I think that's why it's really important, kind of like we've talked about self-care before, to schedule it like a dentist appointment, maybe, or at the very least, have a consciously made mental list or even write it down. A lot of people, I'm still old school with writing stuff in my little planner, but some people just put it in their phone and hey, whatever works. I'm going to text my grandfather today. I'm going to just say I'm going to send a funny meme to my friend in California I haven't seen in 3 years. Just to hang on to that and also to slow it down, not to get eaten up by meetings. Another thing you can do is, if you're in that professional place where everybody's looking at everybody's Google calendars and all that, you can block out a little bit, maybe at lunchtime or maybe in the morning, even 15 minutes, and just write busy so you don't get meeting bombed, and catch your breath and maybe read something inspirational. But anyway, he continues, he says, Richard Carlson continues, as part of my early morning routine, I take a few seconds to ask myself this question. Reminding myself of what's really important helps me keep my priorities straight. It reminds me that despite my multitude of responsibilities, I have a choice of what is most important in my life and where I put my greatest amount of energy. Being available for my wife and children, writing, practicing my inner work, and so forth. So that is all we're saying. Regardless of what is most important in your life, you might also, in addition to the people in your life, you might also have like a pickup basketball game that really lifts you up. You get joy out of that. Seeing these people, you look forward to it. It's healthy, gets your blood pumping. That's something to really prioritize and not just, make passive decisions. Oh, I worked late today and I'm going to barely make it, only make it by a minute. I'll have to throw everything on and be in hurry. Yeah, just throw everything on and hurry and do it. Because that's just so important. Or the flip side of that would be, if you're really and truly exhausted, maybe it is a night to go home and sit by a fireplace or watch a movie. But it depends how you're feeling it. The point is not to make passive decisions, because one way or other, we're making decisions. We are actively engaged in our life, or we are passively engaged in our life. And certainly in the end, when we all go to our great reward, as my grandmother would say, it's not going to have on the tombstone, if there is one. My plan for my ashes to be flying around at St. Mike's, but on the tombstone, oh, they didn't miss a day at work. Oh, they stayed that extra hour late. Oh, they got that last project in on time. Oh, she answered every single one of her emails by 8 o'clock at night. Who cares? It's all about the relationships, really. And I'm not saying being reckless in your work life or with finances or anything like that. But when it comes down to it, and we know this, well, in reality, but also it's research supported, that our relationships are the number one, absolutely the number one. So it's just important, I think, to try to, there's only so much time in the day. And I've also talked about doing a not to do list in previous episodes. So maybe this is a good way, because typically there's at least one thing, all of us, myself included, there's one thing. It might be answering 2 emails or those reply alls that drive us all a little crazy. There's one thing, and even if it saves you 2 life minutes, Those are 2 valuable life minutes, and I know at a fabulous 57, I'm gonna want those 2 life minutes back when I'm, 97 or 107 or whatever. Think of what you can do with 2 minutes. You could email somebody and send a nice something, or better yet, call them. In 2 minutes, you can at least touch base with somebody. If it's 5 minutes, you can have a decent touch base. If it's 15 or 20 minutes, you can really get it going on. So that's what we're talking about here, priorities. So then, Richard Carlson, again, author of Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, says, despite the appearance of being overly simplistic, I found this strategy to be immensely helpful in keeping me on track. When I take a few moments to remind myself of what's really important, I find that I'm more present, moment oriented. Thank you. That's mindfulness. In less of a hurry. Also, thank you. That's mindfulness. And that being right loses its appeal. Oh, I love that one. I've done a bunch of those where, be kind versus being right. Like, who cares? I mean, there are those exceptions on occasion, but really, just let it go. Take the high road. Don't let that shenpog get you. Just, that urge to err and just be right and get back in somebody's face. Just let it go. It's a much more quickly to diminish that way. And then he says, Richard Carlson says, conversely, when I forget to remind myself of what's really important, I find that I quickly lose sight of my priorities and once again lose my own get lost in my own busyness, This is what we're talking about. We can get lost in our own busyness. In this mind crafters is the biggest thief of life minutes, because what he's talking about as being getting lost in busyness is what I've talked about as being stuck in autopilot. There is nothing worse than this, really, than being stuck in autopilot, because that means life is going by. So if you're not engaged in your life, you're not living your life, missing out on your life. And so getting lost in all these, think about how much it doesn't matter. The emails and the political crap and all that stuff is just such noise. The people in your life that matter. And I'm not saying that, to maintain that paycheck and good stature, there are some boxes to check, obviously. But again, in each and every day, there is certainly something that can go. And if all else fails, call in well, Sorry, folks, just feeling too good. Can't come in and going to enjoy my life minutes today and spend them like they're cash. Check in with me tomorrow. Okay. And then he says, and this is after getting lost in his own busyness. He said, I'll rush out the door, work late, lose my patience, skip my exercise, and do other things that are in conflict with the goals of my life. Wow. And I've been in this in addition to the walking in the woods and all that I do and skiing and stuff. I've also recently, we got an exercise bike. We made a little makeshift emphasis on makeshift gym because one of the kids have left, all except for one. And so I have been getting a really good habit with this, and I'll admit that I had that happen to me on a couple of occasions, and I'm going strong now because I became aware of it. I was like, okay, I'll go for my walk first, because the routine is, and it's not very long. I listen to like a podcast for maybe 10 or 12 minutes, short ones, or I'll do half, whatever. And I do that first, then the walk. And the couple of days when I said, I'll walk first and then do the exercise second, I came back in, throw things on my computer, and never got on that bike. And so I can really kind of relate to this. So now I do not do that if I can help it, which is the majority of the time. It's got to stay kind of the way it is. Otherwise, I get lost in emailville. And then he says, if you regularly take a minute to check in with yourself, to ask yourself, what is really important to me? So, and he does that. I'm talking about today. Again, if we talk about forever, that's a big conversation, and on that, worthy of having, of course. But that to me seems like Mount Everest. What is most important to me on this day? Is that lunch with an acquaintance I don't really care about that important? Is that lunch with one of my friends at work who I haven't seen in 3 months way more important? Yeah, swap them out subtly, or put them back to back or something. Make it work. I mean, obviously, don't be rude to somebody. I'm not saying that, but just prioritize, and put that person, bump her up in the queue is all I'm saying. Okay, what's really important? You may find that some of the choices you are making are in conflict with your own stated goals. Or I'm not a huge fan. I mean, I obviously like to have goals, but I've talked about how that pulls us out of the moment. So I'm thinking more in conflict with your values and with, for me, like the whole thing I just explained about the bike, like that's not important, as important is sitting with my husband. He gets out of the door early in the morning. Sometimes we have this overlap of an unexpected 20 minutes. And I've learned, even when I'm starting my day like everybody else and answering things from the day before, blah, 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 if we have 20 minutes together, or let's just say it's 10, because that's more likely, that 10 minutes isn't going to make or break anything. I can shut my computer down for 10 minutes before he leaves and I leave right behind him, and just share that 10 minutes, and put him first. And I can, if he were sitting right next to me, which he is not, he would be nodding his head about all the times that we haven't done that. We've learned to do that, but we've been caught up in it. And then it feels in that moment like, oh, I got to answer this, got to answer that. And then you never know when it's your last, life minutes together. I mean, you really, really don't. And so we've gotten good about that. We still fall off the wagon, definitely. But 10 minutes, like, who cares, right? So we've gotten good at that. And what else did I want to say here? No, no, no. This strategy can help you align your actions with your goals. Love that, because I love the alignment word there, and encourage you to make more conscious, loving decisions. Remember, again, there's conscious living and unconscious living. We can choose to be actively engaged and make our own choices, or we can sit on the back burner and let them all happen for us. Much better to be actively engaged, and ask yourself each and every day, what is important and what can I add to my not to do list? Awesome. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from the beautiful northern Vermont. Have a mindful day.